A terrible murder was recorded on a highway in California. The main suspect? Someone who shocked the entire community.
It's a case you'll never forget.
Robin Bishop was a young woman who had a bright future ahead of her. Her plan was to become a great actress, and what better city to do it in than Los Angeles? Convinced by a friend to move to California, she decided to take a trip to Las Vegas to get her things. However, at her destination, she crossed paths with George Gwaltney. The case would become one of the most important of the moment, especially because of who the main defendant was.
He was a cunning adversary, trained in crime solving, and he knew how to cover his tracks.
Despite the fact that Gwaltney, a California Highway Patrol officer, was the prime suspect, no one wanted to believe that he could be the culprit behind the horrible crime. The thing is, the grisly murder shocked everyone.
Kind of empathized with him because we were, in my opinion, we were looking for evidence to show that he didn't do it. It was some criminal that did it.
The crime was shocking, and the police were looking for all possible evidence to find the culprit. However, when the case looked hopeless and no one was found guilty, the final outcome would surprise everyone.
Gwaltney was like a wolf in the sheep pen. The local law enforcement didn't know that he was the perpetrator. He was the person that had committed the murder, so he would stay one step ahead of them, destroying evidence. And this is a significant reason that the locals were unsuccessful in their prosecution. They didn't realize what they were dealing with.
Of course, Gwaltney had been through 2 trials in Barstow, but in both of them, he was found not guilty, because the evidence was only circumstantial, nothing concrete. However, it was also because no one in the police department could believe that one of their own was guilty of the terrible deed, something he had conveyed to the jury in court.
And a few of the jurors thought there was a good possibility George was the one responsible, but they couldn't believe he actually did it.
Voy a tratar de resistirme a entender que esa otra persona que representa lo bueno que es, incluso valores republicanos, por ejemplo, si es un policía, es muy patriota, celebra el 4 de julio, entonces que eso es suficiente para pensar que es buena persona. ¿Por qué razón? Porque si esa persona que tiene esa conducta tiene conductas negativas, se pone en peligro mi propia estabilidad.
The prime suspect had pulled the victim over for speeding, but told her he wouldn't fine her in exchange for intimate relations, a practice that had become common during Gwaltney's rounds. However, on this occasion, everything changed. After attacking her, the cop let his victim go, but in the middle of the road and in an act of nervousness, thinking that he had been seen with the young woman, he decided to take her life by shooting her at point-blank range. From then on, and knowing what was coming, he began to manipulate and hide evidence, putting all his knowledge into practice.
It was obvious from the beginning that the individual that had worked on this particular firearm knew something about forensics because he had removed several pieces of the firearm that could be of some use later on to a forensic examiner.
The case would eventually be taken over by the FBI, who after an exhaustive reinvestigation were able to find evidence that incriminated Gwaltney.
People knew George, and they could not believe that George Gwaltney could have done something so bad.
The community couldn't believe that the person who'd been chosen as the best cop of the year was the protagonist of such a macabre crime. The culprit was eventually sentenced to 90 years in prison, but in 1997, he died of a heart attack.